Alright guys, let's do a bow and then let's get running round.
Yes, good hustle. Keep it going.
Are we listening?
Hey!
Are we listening?
Do you like the new intro?
Let's do what you think.
Yeah.
Took long enough, didn't it?
That intro has been in the works for
Wow.
3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Since the start of the podcast. I think, when did you actually start working on it? Probably
Not that long ago. It was in the idea stage for the longest time. It hadn't cracked out of the egg. Once it cracked out of the egg and the task had been started, it didn't take long at all.
Well, Steve says it didn't take long at all.
From the idea to the actual thing took a while, but from actually starting the task.
Well, from when he started it to completion, I reckon it took a month. So for Steve, that's not long at all.
It's not bad. I'm a musician.
I would get that done
creative.
in like 2 days.
Would you?
A day.
Wow.
I would bang out. I mean, obviously you're a proper musician. I was just pretending, producing songs on a computer, not actually playing any instruments.
Yeah.
But I would, it's like I could bang out a song in a couple of days, easy.
I think for me, I've been doing a lot of content creation. It's just that.
Yeah.
There was always something else on the land, or some other thing that was always going. Oh, I've got to do that. It's like that's got to take priority. Or
But you're quite a slow person.
yeah, what like slow?
No, but like you, for whatever reason, like things just take longer with you. Like you could probably broadly put people.
My wife would agree.
Yeah. Too long.
You're boring me.
Fuck's sake, just finish already.
Yeah, God, you're a stallion, whatever.
My leaning is to get things done quickly.
Yeah.
In all areas of my life.
Yeah.
And just get it over and done with.
Yeah.
Like, and just get it done. Like, whereas your leaning is to take your time.
Yeah.
And I think everyone probably sits on that, like, that curve somewhere or the other, don't they?
Yeah. I think I'm guilty sometimes of being a bit like too much of a perfectionist. Like, that's not quite right. That's not quite right. Or sometimes just, I kind of wish I'd be better at just kind of, it's fine. Just run with that. It's good. It'll do.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
But I'm really pleased with it. I got the.
It's banging. Yeah, I'm loving it.
yeah.
You wait till you hear the outro.
Oh, come
guys,
on.
you are in for a treat.
Some studio tricks in there.
Hey, so you better watch the whole thing so that you can hear the outro,
Yeah.
or just skip it to the end and listen to that and then fuck off.
Yeah. You don't want to listen to this shit. Listen to the music at either end.
Yeah, that's the most
Best
important
bit.
thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, let us know what you think in the comments.
What do you want to talk about? Should we talk about the systemised stuff that Rich was talking about?
One of our training partners had a question about how do you kind of, I guess, sort of document and then systemize your training, like off the mat. Like, what are your systems? What are your processes for getting better off the mat, if you like? So I guess what he means is like, are you keeping like a spreadsheet of the kind of systems that you're devising? Are you keeping document of the moves that you're kind of incorporating into your game and practicing? Things like that. Everyone probably has slightly different systems.
Yeah.
Are you filming your training and then spending time watching it back and then taking notes, or do you take notes as you leave traiing? There are things that you've done in the past.
Yeah, I used to have a book. I used to have a little book that I kept in my bag especially when I was a white belt, of just like, because I had, of like one-to-ones or like, like classes either with you or with Cole, and I'd get home and I would use it as a way of documenting a bit. Also, I feel like I remember it more if I've just written it down, even if I know it, if you know what I mean. So I would do it as a way of kind of supporting the data I just gathered, if you like, but also just kind of like evaluating it in my head as I'm writing it. I find that quite, and I've definitely some of my stronger moves I've gained from doing that.
Really?
Yeah.
You feel like that's a direct impact on like the stuff that you're better at?
Yeah, I think it's because I feel like if I'm writing it down and I'm thinking about it and I'm doing it, I'm kind of remembering it 3 different ways.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I found there was a lot of benefit with that.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because everyone learns differently, don't they?
Yeah.
This is why this whole like argument of like ecological and like I can't remember the term they used for like just drilling, but there was like another term that they sort of devised for just drilling.
Oh, no, was it?
Oh, the dog. I feel like it's a kind of a redundant argument because like when I go around teaching, everyone learns differently.
Yeah.
Some people you show the move and they're just they can watch it and maybe you have to come and show them their pairing like together, and they'll be really good at just sort of replicating it straight away. And then you see them, they're just like getting into the right position in sparring. They're able to sort of observe something and then recreate it in varying different environments because they're like really good at learning through observation and then recreation in their movement. Other people, like, they're just shit at that. Like, you show it to them or like, you know, and they're just like, what? Like,
but they might be able to read a book and go, that makes sense.
Or you come over and you explain it with your words, or you start moving them into position and they're just like getting it and they're just flowing. Some people, you know, if you said, oh, we're just going to do all these sort of constraints-based drills, if you like where we're going to break and move down into lots of different like drilling sort of components, they're not like, they're almost not like creative enough to kind of get it and understand like what you're actually trying to do, and they're just doing like when you look at them, they're just not following the rules of the game, and they're just doing something completely different. And you're like, in the class environment, you know, maybe you like go over and you sort of remind them the rules of the game, and you sort of just sort of help them to do it properly, and then you look back a minute later and they're being a retard again, and you're just like, I can't stand there the whole time with you because there's 30 other people, 20 other people, whatever. So you guys are just going to have to do it wrong, you know, like, and sorry, like, but I tried to explain it in the best way that I could. And again, with the ecological thing, it's all about that wording. So if you go over and you really fucking dumb it down for them and pull it apart and explain it in 10 different ways, now we're actually being too prescriptive. So then it's becoming more like not ecological anymore. I don't know. Anyway, I've gone off on a bit of a rant there, but everyone's different in their learning, aren't they? So it's interesting that you found like doing things from 3 perspectives was helped you sort of dial in your really good bits.
Yeah, and I
things
think
that you do well. This.
Yeah, you're right that everyone's got different ways of learning, and I think, like I've said this before, I'm not the most natural. Just checking the camera again. That's a record, I think. What are we? 5 minutes in?
7 minutes, 29 seconds in.
Are we still good? Right. Just checking my phone in case my dad rings. I think I'm not the most natural athlete, so I need to kind of like hammer it into my head sometimes, and I think that's why I did it. It's like a trifactor way, if you like. But yeah, it's an interesting point you made about the ecological stuff. About it relies on a person being creative. Doesn't it?
I think so. I think it would be better. I think people who respond well to it will be creative because they're naturally like trying different things, and their mindset is like, okay, I've been given a problem here. Yeah. Like I'm going to come up with all these possible solutions. Whereas some people's minds don't work like that.
Your accountants and those kind of those kind of non-creatives. I don't know whether that's a bit of a blanket term, but people that aren't wired that way.
More just linear people.
Yeah, it's like I need to be shown something, and I'm going to do that to the letter.
Yeah, if I will be really like you show me, and I will do that thing.
And they'll always remember it, and they'll lock it in.
Their kind of skill.
Yeah. I feel like particularly for those people, the ecological stuff, they'd be like, "What am I doing here?" Sort of thing, you know. But yeah, I think it's. As a coach, you need to be able to be, and actually, I find this is one of the most tiring things, or the most challenging things rather, is being sensitive to all those different types of learning across a class or a group of people, and changing with each person. Okay, you're a bit like this. You're a bit more creative, right? I can give you that, and you can run with it. You next person, you're going to need to be shown exactly move for move for move for move what you need to do, and then you will do that move. And A, being sensitive to the change, and B, being able to make that change in the moment. Do you know what I mean?
Be interesting, wouldn't it, to have? I think if I had my own gym, I would have a whiteboard on every mat, like a big whiteboard next to every mat, because you could like, as well as showing a technique and talking about it, you could like draw. You know, or you can make a list of things that pertain to the technique. Yeah. Like, let's say you're doing an armbar, you could break it down. It's like 7 steps, and literally write the steps out. Yeah. And some people might really benefit from being like, oh, okay, like, and they can look back, right, and then that's their way of learning, is they like to write things down, and that like step by step visual of like all the moves, they're like, right, and then that clicks into place, and then they go there, and you know, I certainly find that.
Yeah.
I think I'm quite I'm a fairly visual learner. I'm quite good at someone showing a technique, and then as long as I'm paying attention.
That's my biggest problem.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I zoned out again.
Yeah, literally.
Sorry.
If I'm paying attention, then I'll be like, okay, I'm pretty sure I've got that.
Yeah.
And then I just have to do it a few times. And I'm like, right, okay.
Yeah.
But I do like writing a list.
Yeah.
And that really helps as well. And
Well,
I know for me, like coming off the mat, and like, I've never really like made notes after a class. Just because I'm lazy and I don't like doing homework generally.
Yeah.
But what I have done is when I've got instructionals, to systemize it in my head, I've like made spreadsheets.
Okay.
And like written basically lists, which will like branch off into other lists, and kind of made like thought showers or whatever you call, like mind map.
Thought
kind of
showers?
things. Thought shower.
Never heard of a thought shower.
Mind
That sounds sexual.
Yeah.
Thought shower.
I'm gonna shower you with my thoughts.
Shower me with your thoughts. Wow. Okay. Yeah. You love a spreadsheet, don't you?
Yeah,
I've never.
Yeah, I got into them.
Right. Okay. I think I got put off because I used to work a job at Hasler Hospital. Is that still a thing? Is it still a hospital?
No, I think
okay.
Yeah.
Back when it was a hospital, I used to work in the assets department, and
Right.
I did a lot of. I was a young kid. I used to do a lot of data entry on Excel.
Yeah, sure.
Boring fucking thing, and I just associated Excel with that.
I mean, this utilization of a spreadsheet is like, for a spreadsheet purist, they'd be like, no, like this is not appropriate utilization for a spreadsheet. But it's just easier if you're making like, so I've got a list of 4 things, and then each of those 4 things might branch off into like another list of things, and then almost like a family tree.
Yeah, okay.
That's easier to do in like Excel or Google Drive
Got you.
than on like a Word document.
Yeah.
Because like the formatting on a Word document is just like
It's very
page.
linear, isn't
It's
it?
annoying. So you could do it like that, but it's annoying. So I tend to just use a spreadsheet because it's just easier. But there's no like formulas or anything like that. Like the reason you would use a spreadsheet usually is for like numbers and formulas and things.
You can go deep, can't you?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
deep.
you can really deep.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I would do. I'd sort of watch. I watched a few of the Lachlan.
Giles.
Yeah, his like front headlock.
Yeah.
Instructional is half guard one. There's another one, but I can't remember. But yeah, and I really like watched it, and I was like, there's a system in here
Yeah.
that like I need to like draw out, and I can see how it all connects together. You might watch it and not realize, but like there's kind of like, if you watch the whole thing, you can connect it all together.
Yeah.
Like he didn't do it like that in the DVD, as far as I remember the instruction, or he hasn't sort of spoken about like the A to B, but I was like watching it going like, this all connects. This all connects together. And so I just got
imagine you in your room with the red wall,
naked, like sweating, just the anaconda in the doors. So yeah, I got like every morning I'd do like half an hour where I'd like just write down in this spreadsheet, making like lists of like, right, this goes here, and then if they do this, you move on to this, and if they do this, you move on to this, and like that really helped me to like connect it all together and understand like the system.
Yeah, I bet.
And then I got an app called Mindly. Mindly.
Just like
That is excellent.
Spider diagram stuff.
Yeah,
right?
it's just spider diagrams, but it's just so good. So if
Yeah.
you like are into systems and you want to build like spider diagrams and stuff, that is brilliant. The MMA coach at the gym, Brian, showed it to me, and he'd built their whole system on it. And like you can zoom out and look at the whole thing, and it's just like, whoa, that is intense.
I really enjoy it as well. I
Yeah.
haven't really delved too much into it because I think I class myself as quite a visual learner too, but I think it would make a lot of sense to a visual learner.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I think that, like for me, I've got to be able to picture it in my mind, literally as an image, for it to work. Like I get the same musically, lyrics. I've got to like if I like 80% of my brain capacity is either jiu-jitsu moves or lyrics to songs, and
What's the other 20%?
you don't know. That's for the free. That's for the OnlyFans. That's like my own personal dark web.
family are featured nowhere in that. 100% model.
Yeah.
There's just 80% for music and jiu-jitsu and 20% for dark web.
Yeah, there's a separate hard drive entirely for the family, of course. You know,
That
like
has
a
to
whole...
be plugged in. You walk through the door, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, hello. How was your day? My day was okay. What would you like for tea? But yeah, I'm making. If I'm remembering lyrics, for example, I can make a picture in my head, and I find it so much easier for me to remember it. Oh, I'm in dad mode now. Hello, darling.
Sorry. Yes.
It's definitely like I've often struggled if I'm reading a book on moves and it says, "Oh, put your leg here," and the way they describe it, I'm like,
I find
that doesn't make
hard,
sense to me. Like, move your leg. It's the way that they'll just pass your arm round and do this, and I'm like, they'll just say it the way. I'm just like, what?
If people are saying moves,
Yeah.
they would have to say it so slowly. Like,
Yeah.
right, we're going to take your right leg and kick into the armpit. Full stop.
Yeah, take a breath. Yeah.
And then I'd be there like, okay, next move.
Totally, yeah, absolutely.
Because people always say that. They'll like come up to me on the mat and be like, oh yeah, I was doing this thing where I like my left arm and my right arm and I was holding his head and I'm like, just show me. Like, I've got no idea what you're fucking talking about. You haven't even told me what position you're in.
Yeah.
I've literally got no idea what you're talking about. You could be doing this to yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I just do not know. Get someone and show me what you're talking about.
It's like, so I'm fairly good at remembering phone numbers. It's because I can picture it and there's a rhythm to it.
Yeah.
Right. So and I remember a phone number as a 5-digit, like almost like an area code, like a mobile phone number, and then the 6-digit.
6 digits. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
5
sorry,
and the
sorry.
6.
Yeah, okay.
So the 5 digits and the 6-digit. We'll delete that bit. It's fine.
I did that out.
Yeah. The 5 digits area code and the 6-digit normal bit kind of thing. So I can remember phone numbers really well like that. But if someone does that thing where they go, so my number's 0775, and they do it like it's like a 4, then a 3, then a whatever, I can't remember it. It doesn't go in. I'm like, this is like you're talking a different language.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? So it's a wiring thing, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing with being shown a move by reading it in text or being told it. I'm like, I'm sorry, like I don't get that.
Can you imagine, like, back in the olden days when they just had books to, like, learn moves?
Yeah.
Some of the books Mike's shown, I've got a few books in there. And it would be, like, 4 pictures to learn, like, a throw. Like, fucking hell, that must have been hard, isn't it? Because you got no idea.
No, because you look at the throw and you're like, well, how did you end up there? Like, from what direction did you come from to get into that? Or, like, what direction are you going? Even if there's an arrow there, it's like, well, how, like... Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me.
So lucky. Now, with the digital age.
But also, I guess back then there was a lot of showing you how to do it. It was passed down.
Yeah. Well, but outside of that, the only resources that people had were like magazines and books, and that was it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So like, if you wanted to like go outside of what your instructor showed you, you might this person's like released a book on like their approach, and it's like I'm going to buy that and like try and work out what he's doing in the book like in real life.
But I guess people were more willing to or because they had to, putting a lot more effort into like really like absorbing that knowledge. I get the same thing again, to use another music analogy. Even as recently as when I started music, I mean, I've been playing in bands nearly 30 years, but I've been playing guitar probably a bit the same. But you know, it was a lot of what I learned in the first days was books. And just tab in books or whatever, music in books. And there was no YouTube or whatever. And I think you got like a music book of like a certain, you get that album book or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And I just fucking like just sit with this book and just learn everything about it and absorb it. Whereas now, because you can just go on YouTube and go, I learn that particular song, it's like, right, cool, yeah. And you can look at that one, oh, that's that, right, I've learned that. And it almost makes you lazy in a way, because your access to information is so much more than it ever was.
It's funny, the kids have started listening to Green Day recently.
Okay.
And like that was like my youth. Like,
Full circle.
They were like one of my favourite bands when I was probably a bit older than Ruben and Lou, probably like, well, it was probably around the age of 12, plus or minus a year or two. And I remember, like, I'm listening to some of the songs off the Dookie album, and I'm getting like visceral, like physical memories of like opening like the book and like learning the song and like looking at the chords and like practicing like the riff and like working it out for the first time, and that feeling of like, that's how you do it. Like, and doing the, oh my God, that's the next note. That's right. That sounds right. And like feeling
I'm
of
doing
like,
it.
wow, because
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you've not heard. It's not like someone's teaching you and they play it and you go, like, all right, like you're like reading the tab and you're playing it and you're like, fuck, that's the right thing.
It's
like,
appearing
that's
before
so
you.
cool, yeah.
Man.
And then like it's such a weird like. Yeah, it's like I'm having like a PTSD like flashback, but like a good
positive one.
Yeah, it's not trauma. It's like a great memory.
Yeah.
And it's just so like visceral.
That's
like,
cool,
It's
man.
so mad, but yeah, like I remember, like, I'd forgotten all this.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten that I had album books and like, I'd buy it and be like, oh, I'm gonna learn how to play the songs and like
Have you
learn
still
how
got
to play
'em?
them. No.
Ah, shame.
No, I'd have to ask my parents. They might have them
In the
but-
loft or something. How cool would that be? Like Ruben, like learning from those books.
But yeah, that would be really cool. But obviously now he learns in his lessons, or he's learning from YouTube. So there's some really good YouTube accounts where they've got like pretty much every song that's ever been written. It seems.
And all
like,
the tabs running underneath.
And they're just, and you know, if I had that when I was his age, for sure I would have used that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think. Maybe it would have made me a bit more like, oh, I can just learn any song whenever I want. But I would have engaged with it, like, and I would have like listened to it and repeated it and watched it over and over again until I could do it. Do you know what I mean?
I do, but I guess what I mean is, and this goes across most things, like music in general, listening to music, like, you know, I just don't think these things are valued in the way that they used to be.
No,
you know,
you
like,
can just listen to any song at any point.
at any moment, you know, like you remember queuing up outside the record shop
yeah.
for for the latest CD of whatever band you were into,
Yeah.
and like getting it home and like opening it up and fucking listening to it, put it on, like reading the lyrics and being like, oh my God, I love this.
Yeah.
And you're absorbing every molecule of it.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, it's like a playlist, bump, you know, and it's not about having it anymore. It's just
not.
it's
Although I think if you're passionate about it, like, because Ruben and Lou, like, they will like. If I was like, oh, do you want to go and like get like a Green Day album? They'd be like, yeah. Like, they can listen to it.
Yeah.
On Spotify, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But they still want it.
Yeah.
They
But would
still
they
want
listen
that
to the whole
thing.
album, do you think, before they went on to?
Yeah, to a degree. Yeah, maybe.
Do you know? I a couple of years ago, my mother-in-law got me a little record player for the studio. Which is really cool, and I've got loads of records in the studio, and I put on. I mean, I'm old enough where I started with records when I was a kid. I used to get, you remember that, the little 7 inches and stuff.
Well, CDs, tapes,
Yeah.
CDs, records. Yeah.
But I remember like mid '80s when we would go to the record shop and buy little 7-inch records, and get them home and have one of those little record players where you put multiple ones on there, then it play one and the next one would drop down, sort of thing.
I'm not that old.
Yeah, and it was literally had wood effect around it and stuff. It's ridiculous how old I am. But it's so old. But so anyways, I put this record on. I think the first one I wanted to put a good one. I put Grace by Jeff Buckley on. Just listen to the album. But the thing you realise is you can't skip the tracks. Like you can with anything else, or like you can with a CD or whatever, or Spotify.
Well, you can. You can just.
You
to the
can,
next bit.
but there's a barrier there. You have to fuck about with the thing. You can't just go click and do it. So
Yeah,
what
yeah,
it does
yeah.
is it urges you to listen to the entire piece of art the way it was supposed to be listened to, which I think is beautiful. You know, it's great. And so I did. I sat there and listened to the entire album. And there's a couple of songs in there that I probably would skip if it was on CD or on Spotify or whatever. But it was just like, this is wicked. You know, it's a very kind of wholesome experience.
Well, so one of the Green Day songs. Can't remember what it is now. But anyway, I think it's Chump. And the end of it goes into Longview. So when Chump finishes, it's starting the bass line for Longview, the drums, sorry. And just before the bass line kicks in, that's when the song ends.
Yeah.
And then you have to go and find Longview, obviously. But like on the album, it would have just seamlessly like transitioned in.
Yeah.
But obviously on Spotify, it doesn't do that. Like unless you're listening to the whole album.
Yeah.
But if you're just listening to the free one, because I'm tight, then it just goes on to playing something else. So yeah, it's interesting. That's a nice sort of segue actually, because we were going to sort of talk about like the impact or the role of technology in jiu-jitsu, because it seems to be kind of growing, doesn't it? Well, as with everything
Absolutely,
in life now, technology sort of intertwining itself. It's almost a bit cliche, really, I suppose. Technology.
Exactly.
It's like, but
It's everywhere.
yeah, like jiu-jitsu is a physical sport between two people. You can't do it without someone. Someone the other day was like, he asked me, he's a student. He was like, "Oh, I'm going back home." Like, no, maybe home or like on holiday or something like that. But anyway, he was going to like Northern Ireland. He was like, "What can I do to like get better at jiu-jitsu?" And I went, "Are you with other people?" And he was like, he was a bit unsure actually. I said, "Look, if you're with other people, train. Like I said, the first thing you need to do is find a jiu-jitsu club. He's like, oh no, we're in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, well, can you get one other person to train with? I was like, if you haven't got someone to train with, like you can't do jiu-jitsu. Like you need other people. If you're asking me how can I get better at jiu-jitsu on my own, I'm like, you can't basically. What you can do is watch instructionals, watch as much jiu-jitsu as you can, make notes. So I guess you can make the argument you can get better at jiu-jitsu. But if you're not doing it, you can't. And I'm not even going to discuss the fucking grappling dummy thing because we've had that discussion. It's a load of bollocks. But I said, like, so I went and got my phone and put the map in. I was like, where are you going? And it was like Omar. And I was like,
Right.
I said, you got half an hour.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu's there.
Yeah.
I was like, there's always a jiu-jitsu school.
Yeah.
And it was like literally half an hour, literally down one road for half an hour. I was like, there's a jiu-jitsu school, just go there.
Yeah.
Like, don't not do jiu-jitsu. Just fucking Google where it is and go there.
That's the number one thing to do. Anywhere that we've been on holiday or anywhere we've been, like, I'm always like we went to Lanzarote and I found a jiu-jitsu.
Loads of jiu-jitsu in the Canaries. It's everywhere.
Yeah, that's the thing to do is to find a club, even if it's a spit in the sawdust. You've got someone you can, even if it's a bit shit.
Well,
better than doing nothing.
Now, so
right,
it's all going to be good.
Yeah. But yeah, aside from like shadow grappling, it's just bullshit.
Don't bother. Just fucking enjoy your holiday.
Well, or yeah, exactly.
Or just watch loads of tape.
Which is what, like I said this morning, that's kind of what I'm doing because I can't train because of the hair. I'm just sitting there and just like trying to absorb as much data as I can from watching you guys and trying to anticipate what you're going to do. And do you know what I mean? Almost like grapple vicariously through you almost, if you know what I mean.
You know, if you had the time and the inclination, which that guy probably does, he's not got kids, he's not got, he's living the dream, he just doesn't realise it. Like you could like film, you could download like matches or even just film people at training and just watch it and like, you know, make content essentially. You don't have to put it out, but like, you know, those content videos where like they'll draw like a little arrow, like he's going to get an underhook here, and they draw a little arrow, and then they like circle the underhook, and then he gets he grabs the knee. Like you could literally just make those because the process of making that, you would learn a lot, wouldn't you?
100%.
You would be like, you'd be in your head breaking down like, oh, he got that takedown because he managed to get the underhook by like spinning his elbow in and getting that underhook. Yeah. And the way he held it was like quite high on the shoulder with his elbow high so they couldn't repummel. And then he like off balanced him with a bit of a shove and then tapped his like. If you have the time, you could watch matches and like slow them down and rewind them and watch them and slow them down and then draw on the screen and like, you know, if you've got the time and the inclination,
that's literally
that would really help you like learn, wouldn't it?
Definitely, I've done it without the arrows. I've literally done that. I've taken like videos of like moves that are shown on YouTube or certain matches, and I'll do a screen record of a certain bit that I like, and I'll just use the finger and go back and forth through that move really slowly and watch how the leg enters or whatever, or watch how they get an underhook or whatever, how they kind of position their hips. So I just keep almost drilling it in my mind as if it's me.
Yeah.
I can't, and there's a lot of studies that have gone into that, isn't there, of people that I think I read one about some basketball players. They were trying to get like a 3-pointer or whatever the shot was, and they half of them they got them to do normal training, half of them they got them to go away and visualize themselves doing it, like over and over, and then the other half they didn't. And obviously the ones that did all the visualization, they were just able to get that shot much more easily because you're still carving those pathways to a degree, aren't you?
Yeah. That's that. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I would go like, that's bullshit. But we had some pro boxers, good quality boxers coming in here into this exact place.
Into the studio?
Yeah, into the studio. Before it was studio, this is a bit of a home gym. To do like their in-bodies. So there was a nutritionist that would come around and he knew I had like this body composition sort of scales, and he would bring them in and they would do their in-body like weight cut to sort of see where they're at in terms of like their water and body fat and things like that, and then they decide their calories. But he also had I forget what it's called now, but it's like a gas exchange mask. Where it basically looks and it can analyze like how much fat and it looks at your fat and carbohydrate like utilization.
Okay.
So you put this mask on, you lie down on the sofa for like 20 minutes, and it just measures like how much fat you're burning and how much glycogen you're burning at any point, like a live graph. So we're always burning a combination of the two. At rest, we should be burning between like 70 to 80% fat oxidation,
Right.
and about 20 to 30% carbohydrate oxidation. So predominantly using fat to just keep our body ticking over. That doesn't mean we're going to be losing fat. It just means we're using the stored forms of fat as a fuel to keep you going.
That makes sense.
When we start doing intense exercise, that will switch, and we'll be using mostly muscle glycogen and glycogen that's in our stores, and then the fat oxidation will go down. So we're doing this boxer, and he's lying down, and then there was like a big spike, and it went up to like utilizing like mostly carbohydrate for like a couple of minutes, and then went back down. We were like, oh, that's interesting. So we said, like, what were you doing at that time? And he said, oh, I just started thinking about like the combinations that I'm going to throw tonight. So his body then, just through him thinking about boxing, his body switched the fuel utilization that it was doing to the appropriate utilization, because it was basically like, we're boxing now.
Yeah, that is
Like,
fascinating.
I'm boxing, but he's just lying on a sofa.
Yeah.
So it kind of like backs up that point that like just through thinking about it, your body can like adapt to those thoughts, like build those neural pathways and things like that.
It almost doesn't know the difference on some level.
In some levels, your nervous system kind of doesn't know the difference. In a way.
Wow. So there's real value to doing that, isn't there?
There's value to doing that, but also you got to be careful. You know, like if your nervous system switches to like a sympathetic response, that's like the fight or flight stress response when it's training, that's good because you need that while you're training. But if you're just thinking about training and it's doing it, that's not good because, again, your nervous system isn't getting a chance to actually recover and settle down.
Yeah.
It's just being stimulated constantly.
Yeah.
And so how often, like when you've got a comp coming up, are you playing through in your head what's going to happen, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
So your nervous system is basically on all the time.
Especially on comp day.
Oh, on comp day.
Do you know what I mean? That's why you end up, you're kind of, you can feel how jacked your nervous system is as you, like before you walk on the mat, can't you? That's got to be why.
How many times have you had like one match or two matches and that night you're like, oh, fucked out.
Yeah.
You're like, I barely broke a sweat.
Yeah.
Like, I've had matches where I turned up and I had one match.
Yeah.
I beat him in under 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And that night I was fucked.
Yeah. And you're like, you come out of that comp, you're absolutely starving.
Yeah.
Like you've run a marathon.
I didn't even drive. I got a lift.
Wow.
And I was just fucked.
Yeah. It's mad, isn't it?
So weird.
Yeah. Interesting.
But yeah, sorry, going off on another tangent. But technology in jiu-jitsu, it started already. I think people filming rounds, people wearing heart rate monitors.
Yeah.
Obviously, the B team crew been using their whoops and like using that heart rate data live in training to determine intensity of training and to kind of govern how they're going to train. People using Whoop bands and HRV, heart rate variability, to sort of look at their recovery and things like that and make decisions about their training. It's interesting, isn't it?
It is. And I think, like we've said many times, I think jiu-jitsu is a kind of sport that does attract the intellectuals as well as other types of people as well. But I think...
Retards.
Like me, yeah. But I think it's natural that these kind of people are going to utilize this evolution, this new type of gathering data.
What do you think about AI though? Like, there's going to be a function for AI in jiu-jitsu, isn't it? Like, I'd be really interested to hear there's going to be some development. Like, I feel like the fitness industry is like one of those. It's such a sort of industry of like innovation, and like there's all sorts of different stuff in the fitness industry with AI and stuff now, but. I feel like jiu-jitsu in some ways mirrors that. It's a little bit behind, but sort of mirrors it. I'd be really interested to see how people start incorporating AI in their training.
Well, we've used it. Do you remember one of us in our little WhatsApp group came up, asked AI to make up some jiu-jitsu moves, and there was some of them were bullshit. Was it you who did it? Yeah. But one of them, was it the Chimera Lock or something?
It was something like the Chimera Lock.
And it was like, that's actually
I can't
pretty
remember
legit.
what it was, but it was like a sort of head and arm style, like shoulder like crush from mount.
Yeah, that's it.
It was good.
You go under the head, I think.
That was it, and then you scooped up the far arm.
Yeah,
sort of thing. It's
that's
a move actually. On reflection, it's a move that actually is sort of a bit more popular now, but has been like invented already, essentially.
Yeah.
But like, it's
I think I don't know. Maybe that alone you know, is just something that's just going to develop and develop it. It's understanding because he's going to be able to access all of jiu-jitsu in a split second.
I don't. Yeah.
You know, and then I'd sort of evaluate it all and think,
Possibly.
you know,
I see. I don't see it necessarily from like an inventive standpoint like that, but I could see it having like a sort of coaching role.
yeah,
So like on Whoop bands and things like that now, pretty much every like wearable like fitness tracker has incorporated like an AI like coach. And so it will look at all the data that you're pumping into it, and it will give you suggestions on the day about what you should be doing, essentially, which is great. As soon as AI started, that was like where my mind went. I was like, this is the future.
Yeah.
Like integrating like your wearables with an AI coach who basically designs a workout for you in that moment based on where you're coming in. Like you're coming in, your heart rate's this, your heart rate variability is this, like your oxygen saturation is this, like. You train. This has been your training in the last like 3 months because I've got access to that. Because you can be logging it. This is what you should do today.
Yeah.
These are your goals that you told me. This is what you should do today.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it just make that decision in a flick of an eye. Whereas a
Yeah.
coach would be like, that's going to take ages to like assess all that stuff and then decide what's best. I feel like now with like Dima, who is sort of popularizing like a new role in
What's Dima?
jiu-jitsu. Dima Miravigliani, the
Oh,
guy who's
I thought-
coaching B-Team.
Oh, I see. I thought Dima was like an acronym for some AI thing. Right.
No,
okay.
yeah. I mean, maybe Dima, My
Oh,
theory
hello.
about AI,
Well, tell
right,
me your
is
theory
all
now.
these
I'm gonna eat
like
my blondie. You tell me
all
your theory.
these like people on social media, who aren't real people, they're AI, and I'm sure this is happening in all fields of social media, whether it's a hot chick, whether it's a sporty person. Like you're getting basically AI influencers. Let's just say that. All right,
Okay.
across all fields,
Yeah.
AI
Let's-
influencers.
yeah. Let's call them
What I've noticed, so please like put this in the comments if you've noticed this as well, or whether you've got a counter theory. But I think in their names there's always an A and an I. So Dima, I've never met him.
Right.
He has an A and an I in his name.
Maybe it is.
Just saying, even if you have met him, he could be a robot.
Yeah. He could
And
be,
he does speak
oh my
like a
God,
robot.
He could be. He could be an AI powered
High
Android.
heart rate.
Maybe he's got that hard drive logged in as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. Maybe it is just AI just being like, these fucking primates. It's like
Yeah.
it's right there in plain sight.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Like, but have a look. Literally, go on Instagram. Go to search.
You made Demon sound like Hitler, by the way. Just saying.
Look, Hitler was Austrian. I think he's anyway. Search for like your favorite AI influencer if you've got one, and I guarantee, like with let's say an 80% accuracy, that there's an A and an I in their name somewhere.
Let us know what you think about that theory.
Yeah, that's my
See if it holds
theory.
up.
You heard it here first. Anyway, back to Dima. So Dima he's basically popularized this kind of new role in jiu-jitsu where you could be a coach, more of like a performance coach. So less of like, historically your coach was someone who has to be basically better at jiu-jitsu. And now they might not necessarily be better at applying it, but they should know more than you.
Yeah.
That's historically like what the coaching role has been, and you learn your skills and you learn your stuff from them. I would say Dima isn't that person because he's only been training, I think, for about 5 years. And now, obviously, that doesn't mean that he couldn't be excellent. I think Joseph Chen's only been training for about 5 years, but he's like one of the best in the world. But as far as I can see, I mean, I've never met Dima, so that maybe I'm wrong. But like from all the things that I've seen put out and the level of the people that he is coaching, I would say it's a hard argument to say that Dima has got more knowledge and better application than Nicky Ryan. That's probably not the case.
Absolutely, yeah.
Nicky Ryan has probably got way better knowledge and way better application than Dima. But he's being coached by him. So it's not about like the skills acquisition necessarily.
Or the experience.
Or the experience. It's about him his critical analysis of the game,
Yeah.
and then being like, I've analysed your game. I understand your your good things that you're good, things that you're good at, things that you're not good at, and this is the way that I think you should go to win.
Yeah.
As that's how I see his role, and hopefully he would sort of agree with that. I'm not like dissing him at all. I'm just saying like, if he was just training like a normal gym, then yeah, he probably is better and like, or maybe not better, but like more knowledgeable than most of those guys because he's obviously really into it and he's learned a lot in a short period of time.
Yeah.
But he's not. He's training the best guys in the world. And you telling me that he's got better knowledge than these guys who've been doing it their whole life and have been winning world championships? No, he hasn't.
Yeah.
But he's doing something different. He's like a performance coach.
And the value is in his approach.
It is, yeah. Look at Alex Ferguson. As far as I'm
Yeah.
aware, I'm not an expert on Alex Ferguson, but I don't think that he was one of the best players in the world, was he?
No.
But he is obviously probably one of, if not the best manager that's ever lived.
Yeah.
I'm not a Man United fan, by the way. I'm just like someone who knows a minimal amount about football, but that's how it seems. But he's coaching the best in the world. So you don't need to be great at jiu-jitsu to necessarily get the best out of the best in the world, but you need to have something. You need to have that critical analysis of like, I understand it well enough that I can see that you're good at this, you're not that good at that. I think if you spend most of your time training in this way, you're going to get better results in competition.
Yeah, I think it's because coaching in any skill is a skill in its own right. And flip that on its head, some of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners out there probably are shit at coaching.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah. 100%.
It's not because of, like, as you just said, there's more to the picture than being really, really good at jiu-jitsu. If you want to be a good coach, you have to be a good coach. You have to teach. Teaching is a very very nuanced skill, isn't it? And very demanding skill. And you know that is something that some people are much better at than others.
Yeah, you could say Danaher like sort of pioneered this, but for me, Danaher is a bit different because when he got really famous and popular, he'd been training for 20 plus years. Like, so he'd been doing it for ages.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of experience and he'd been training with the best in the world for a long time. And although he didn't really compete and like he's a bit older and a bit broken and stuff, as far as I'm aware, he is excellent at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Like he is just he's very good at applying it, very sharp, very technical,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But he's not winning world championships and things like that. Maybe he isn't great at applying it against the best in the world, probably because he's like much older than them and he's like broken, his hips are fucked and things like that. But he is an example of someone who's got an incredible amount of knowledge about skill and how to teach and all that sort of stuff. So I feel like he is a good example of like the old style of like coach who would lead a team. They know basically everything.
Yeah.
Or you think they
I know
do
what
at
you
least.
mean. Yeah.
You know, whereas Dima, I don't think he's like that. I think it's a different style of coaching. You're seeing this now popping up. And I think it's great. You know, people sort of popping up saying like, look, I'm going to be like more of a performance coach. I might only be a purple belt or brown belt or whatever.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm quite good at like managing you and your training and helping you and guiding you in the right direction. And like, you might actually be better at jiu-jitsu than me, but I can still provide value in that role.
I think I mean, I've got music students like that. They're like, I've got a couple of drum students that now they're way better drummers than I am, but I've coached them from being beginners all the way through, and because you can objectively see the ways in which they, music, whatever skill, jiu-jitsu, music, whatever the skill may be, you can objectively look at their skills, and be like, well, you need to improve on that. Whatever, that's really good. Let's spend a bit of time on that. Let's focus on that. So your skill is identifying problem areas, and things. Do you know what I mean? And you're getting them to do the working on it. You don't need to be able to be. You don't need to necessarily be good at the skill. You just need to be good at guiding them to be better at the skill.
Yeah.
That's where it is. You know.
And the proof's in the pudding at the end of the day. In a jiu-jitsu context, if you're trying to be that sort of person, and everyone that's going to you is improving and achieving their goals, winning medals, whatever their goals might be, that might not always be about competition. Yeah. You know, and you can show that. Then Dima's done so well because, like, I think he took like a load of people to trials and like 4 of them won trials, and he had people at ADCC that he was helping, and do you know what I mean? They all did pretty well. So it's kind of like, oh, actually, like this guy's obviously got something.
Yeah, it's definitely it's the ultimate sort of accolade, isn't it? The ultimate sort of proving ground. Yeah, that's definitely. That's exactly what it is. It's the skill is in the tutoring, is in the guidance, isn't it?
So I think going back to what we're talking about, like I think that could be where AI actually steps up.
and becomes the coach.
kind of guides you. You know, like you can maybe there's going to be some tech where you can like feed in like your training rounds and it analyzes them, and it's like, look, this is where you're messing up. You're like losing the battle here, like
point.
your guard passing. These are the mistakes you're making. Like, you know, maybe, you know, because in it, like, you know, I could write in, right, I want to write this article in the style of fucking Alex Hormozy or whoever, like, I want it to sound like. And it will, like, go away and, like, analyze all of his work and then write it down. Like.
Yeah.
So maybe there's going to be an app where, like, it, like, draws on, like, YouTube resources or even, like, BJJ Fanatics maybe could design an app that just assesses every instructional they've ever done. And then you're like, right, you know, you put in your training round, it goes like, actually, like, if we're going to take like a sort of Gordon Ryan style approach, you made some mistakes here, and this is what you need to do, and this is what you need to go away and train to like improve that part of your guard pass, and this is where you fucked up.
Mate, I mean, I think you said this before. It's a really good point. All these kind of like, so many jobs within this generation are going to fall to AI. Like your you know, your doctor, your lawyer, your accountant, your blah blah blah. You know, these kind of, and then most people's jobs are going to be some sort of online presence or something. Just imagining that, being able to just video your round and just load it in and just go bop 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 bop. Here's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Sick.
That'd be amazing.
Sick, but also a bit worrying because I don't know if it would ever get to that stage where in those sort of humanistic roles, like AI would come out on top. I don't know.
I mean, look, as you just said, you need other people to do this thing. So we're still going to get like our Friday mornings where we're sitting there and we're workshopping a move or a sequence or a system. You still got I can't imagine a world where that doesn't exist. Where you don't have that as well. Yeah. I think this just needs to be used as a tool rather than it being an all-in thing. Because you're always going to need other people. You're always, you know, part of this, we've said this a million times, but I think for most people, part of this love of this sport, this art, is the community side of it anyway.
Yeah, the social.
So you kind of, you know, you're going through whatever moves you're going through, but you're also shooting the shit, and you kind of, you know, you're not going to get that from AI.
You get to hug all your mates.
Exactly. Yeah, you get to get up close, and it's perfectly sanctioned.
Yeah.
You know,
nuzzle into their like the nook of their neck.
Yeah.
With your mouth.
Yeah. Get them to put a ballad on at the gym. You know, no one blinks an eyelid. It's fine.
Just holding each other from behind like that.
Yeah.
With your head, like closing your eyes, with your head on their back.
I saw a funny meme the other day about that when he was talking about. He was like, "Yeah, exactly that. You're in that position where you got someone's back and you're listening to what the coach is doing. It's like, at what point does it become weird when you sat there listening to the coach? It's mad, isn't it? But I think you know, we're lucky in as much that you're always going to need other people.
Yeah,
you know, and that's actually going to be
until the sex robots take over.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu robots. That'll be it then, won't it?
But if you could design, like, I mean, apparently these. Just going off on a slight minute, but if
it's always going to end up at sex
apparently
robots.
There is sex robots being built.
Right.
This is. I don't like referring back to Joe Rogan because actually, like, I'm really bored of like his conversations and stuff. But just bear with for a second.
I feel like I refer to it a bit too much.
Yeah, we need to stop doing that. But they have said on that thing that there are sex robots being built, blah blah blah, and like in like a couple of years, like they'll just be like commercially available. So I don't really understand what that means. Whether that is literally a robot, like human, full blown from top to bottom,
like Westworld kind of style.
Well,
Do you ever watch Westworld? Okay.
But like basically like an android that looks and feels like a human that you would have sex with.
That feels like a human.
Yeah, well that's the most important bit. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Like if that is the case, then surely you could have a human that you do jiu-jitsu with.
Yeah. Yeah, but then could you sit and shoot the shit with that robot?
I guess so. Well, you could probably do that with ChatGPT, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Load it up.
What, load up ChatGPT?
Just have a conversation with ChatGPT. Can you do that?
I think so. Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How about you? How's everything going with your hair transplant or anything else you're working on?
Mate, I'm going to have a full-blown panic attack. That is mental.
That's mad. Yeah, it's going well, thanks.
Hey, I hear you. That sounds really overwhelming. What's going on right now? Do you want to talk it through? Sometimes just getting it out can make a big difference.
Wow.
me.
We were just talking about whether in a few years there will be robots that you could actually do Brazilian jiu-jitsu with. Do you reckon that's a thing?
That's a wild thought, but it's not totally out there. With the way technology is advancing, especially in robotics and AI, I can see robots getting to a point where they could simulate BJJ roles. Right now, the tech isn't quite there yet, but we're already seeing robots that can move with impressive agility and precision. There are even AI-driven training partners in some martial arts, but they tend to be more for striking than grappling. If we get to a point where robots can mimic human flexibility, strength, and adaptability in grappling situations, we might see something like that in the future. It could be a training tool rather than a replacement for human roles, though. Kind of like a sparring.
All right, mate.
partner
All right,
that doesn't get tired.
mate. Give it a rest.
What
Give it a
made you
rest.
start thinking about this?
Listen, I've got another question. I've got a real question. Real talk now. Real talk. Do you think that we should pronounce Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu BJJ or BJJ?
Love that spin.
Haha. Okay, real talk. You did say this was a serious question, so let's dive in. If we're going by the popular way it's said, it's definitely BJJ, pronounced BJJ. People use that shorthand all the time, especially in the community and on social media. That being said, BJJ spelled out could be a thing, but it would sound kind of clunky in casual conversation. You'd probably get some weird looks if you insisted on saying each letter individually.
Okay. So
At the end of the day,
it turns out it doesn't quite have a sense of humour yet. It doesn't understand
I
sarcasm.
think BJJ works better.
BJJ, I love
it. Flows way better.
I think that's the new meta, BJJ. Like
Yeah.
I said earlier, it sounds like something that you get like a vajazzle, something that like dingles off your little dingle.
dangle.
Yeah.
BJJ. It's just.
Yeah, BJJ.
I think that flows. I think
Sounds-
he's
sounds
wrong.
softer.
I think he's wrong.
Yeah.
But that was terrifying.
That I didn't expect to get that.
Genuinely terrifying.
It was like, yeah, how's the hair transplant? I was all, oh my god.
I mean, obviously, like, is it listening or you must have Googled?
Do you know what? Yeah, I've googled a couple. I've asked it a couple of questions about at
But
what
out
point.
of all, like,
Yeah, all the things.
just
I mean, he might have
cut-
randomly selected something.
I guess so, but he just cut straight in, didn't he?
Yeah, that was the point at which it was like, oh fuck. But you know, I think I don't know whether we would discuss this on the podcast or whether we discussed it off camera. But there was something I saw on Instagram, some like a tech expert, and he was saying that you want to be training this thing to become an extension of you.
Yeah,
Did we mention this on the last podcast? Whenever we mentioned
I can't remember, but yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's evidence of that, isn't it? But then what you were saying earlier about it, basically, that might be its plan.
Yeah,
to
to intertwine its way into your life so that you can't.
We become dependent on it.
Yeah, like we are with phones, really.
Yep.
Could
We are.
you drive? Are you confident that you could drive to, let's pick somewhere, Newcastle without your phone and get there?
Yeah. Road signs. Yeah. But
There would be a lot of people that would say no there.
yeah,
I'm
definitely.
confident I could get there.
Yeah.
but I'd work it out.
But I think that's probably because we remember a time when you had a big fucking AA roadmap, or
Yeah,
you just looked at the road
yeah,
signs.
Yeah,
Whereas I
but
think
I wasn't driving at that time.
were you not? Okay.
no.
Little story for you. I remember when when I first started professionally gigging in function bands, it was before it was before sat navs.
Horse and cart.
It was horse and cart. Yeah, it took us 12 days to get to Newcastle. One of us had cholera. Jimmy didn't make it, but I took over the bass roll. It was fine. We covered it. It was literally we were in a big white, high top transit van, and one of the guys had a big, AA roadmap, and we'd be using that, and bought a TomTom.
I remember doing it with my parents, like
Right.
looking at the huge road map.
But I remember we got a TomTom sat nav thing and onto the windscreen, and we were like, "Fucking hell!" Just put the postcode in. That's it. We can have a chat now, boys. We ended up at the wrong venue.
Yeah.
And we got to, it was called the Waterfront, this venue, and we got there and we started unloading all the gear, like literally setting up, and there was people in people setting up the room, and supposed to be like a birthday party or something, and after a little while they were like, "Hi, who are you?" And we were like, "Oh, we're the band." They were like, "We haven't booked a band." And then I went back to the van and my phone was there, 15 missed call from the plan, like, "Where the fuck are you?" And we're like, "We're at the Waterfront." And he was like, "Whereabouts?" And I was like, "I don't know," because I just put the postcode in. And he went, whereabouts in the country? I was like, I remember just going, Midlands? And it turns out there was another waterfront about 5 miles down the road, thank God. We got there quite late. It was fine, the gig was fine, but it was just that moment I was like, oh shit, this is like, all of that kind of objective thought is taken out of it when you just surrender it all to the tech, isn't it? But yeah, obviously, if I'm going somewhere for a gig or somewhere, like, you know, whenever we went, your last comp, it was just like, bip, 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 put it in the thing and you forget about it. Yeah. But you are reliant on it completely. You're relying 100% on the fact that thing is going to get you.
Correct,
yeah. It's mad.
I think that's a good place to finish off.
On that slightly dystopian bombshell.
Our outro music should be starting to kick in now. So I really hope you enjoy the outro music and you enjoyed the intro music. We'll be back. We were supposed to have an interview today. He'll be back next week. He had to do a little cancel because he had to cover something. But we'll be back next week. That'll be really, really fun.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
See you later, guys.
See you next time.
All right, guys, let's bow there and then we'll call it a day.